Hey, Joe Bob Briggs here with 4 full hours of Stephen King for you tonight. You may have seen Needful Things before, but have you seen the special, fully restored, uncut, extended My Daddy is Charlton Heston, so I'll turn the camera off when I darn well feel like it? Director's cut, as provided to TNT by Fraser Heston. It has a running time of 3 hours, 7 minutes, and 15 seconds. Have you seen that version? I think not. They hired that boy to make a movie, and he said, "Nah, I'm going for miniseries." Anyway, speaking of Needful Things, I was talking to this buddy of mine this week who's a newspaper editor, and the other day he's staring out at all the young, fresh-faced interns who are hunched over their computer screens in his office, and he turns to me and he says, "Joe Bob, they're just not fornicating anymore." Only he didn't say fornicating. Now, when you hear the word intern these days, you probably do think of fornicating. But he says to me, "Monica Lewinsky, I trust her. She's fornicating. But these little well-scrubbed ones we get from the universities, they're not fornicating. They're buying little tract homes and fixing them up. They're laying gall-darn bathroom tile on the weekends. When I was their age, all we did was fornicate." Well, I have to say, it is hard to find anybody who'll stick up for the fornicator these days. Recreational sex, that's considered either a sin or a sign of terminal shallowness. Womanizing is dang near grounds for being fired from any job. I've heard of guys who like women to be virgins, right, or at least inexperienced, but women who want their guys to be virgins? When did this start? You know who I blame it on? Male feminists. And we've always had females who thought fornicators were evil, right? But in past years, men always had this understanding that the more you get away with, the better off you are, right? Now we have this whole new generation of men who talk like women. They say, "You must not have much respect for yourself if you sleep with that many women. You must have an inferiority complex if you have to prove yourself that way." Well, I have no respect for that sort of behavior. Where do men like this come from? Do they have lesbian parents or something? But speaking of sin, we got a lot of it going on tonight. I'm talking about Needful Things, the 1993 Stephen King flick in which a guy with a Swedish accent who says he's from Akron, Ohio, opens an antique store in Maine and makes the locals start skinning each other's pets and flinging turkey doo-doo at each other's laundry until Ed Harris realizes something is up. Unfortunately, there's about 46 subplots in this movie, so you can't keep it exactly straight as to who hates who. The best feud, though, is between the local geekazoid Amanda Plummer and down on the farm chubster Valerie Bromfield, and they go at it with cleavers and axes in one of the greatest paint-the-walls red stunt sequences since Nightmare. The message of the movie is, antiques kill. Let's do those drive-in totals. We have 6 dead bodies, 1 dead dog, no breast, 3 motor vehicle collisions with 1 roll and burn, exploding church, exploding hardware store, exploding antique store, wife beating, devil beating, looting, turkey doo-doo flinging, preteen attempted suicide, killer arthritis, axe foo, cleaver foo. 2.5 stars. Actually, I'm going to revise that. 3 stars, I'm going to say. Check it out, and we'll be here for the next 4 hours watching the same gall dang movie. Roll it. I say there's no breasts in this movie, but Bonnie Bedelia has some bustier action going on that will make you believe you actually saw breasts anyway. I'm not kidding. You get that Dinosaur Valley effect, you know, where you have an indentation so deep you could conceal prehistoric species in there. Scientific term for that, I think, is twin tetrahedrons. I say that with all respect. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and people do write to me, and some of them try real hard to get on TV. Let me tell you something that won't work. "Hey, Joe Bob, you remind me of a castrated pigeon. Please read this on TV and say my name and the name of my cousin and tell me when it'll be on." Okay, here's something that will work. "Dear Joe Bob, not since the novels of Leo Tolstoy has there been a genius able to speak to the whole world as you have since the arrival of Monstervision." Now, you see the difference? Castrated pigeon, Tolstoy. Don't forget this. Send those letters and cards to me in care of Monstervision, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at monstervision@turner.com. Maybe Tolstoy's a little far. William Butler Yeats, better example.
Don't miss Monstervision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Stephen King loves his New England, doesn't he? This film was actually shot in Gibson's Landing, British Columbia, but it takes place in Big Steve's mythical town of Castle Rock, Maine, the same town Stand By Me takes place in, which Rob Reiner directed. And, Rob Reiner is Castle Rock Entertainment with the Lighthouse logo at the beginning of this movie, Castle Rock Entertainment. Does that all make sense now? Because they used Castle Rock and... Okay. Anyhow, this movie was not directed by Rob Reiner, to further confuse you. It was directed by Fraser Heston, a guy who's made a career out of being Charlton Heston's son. No, he started out in 1956 playing Moses as a baby in The Ten Commandments, starring Charlton Heston. He wrote a movie in 1980 called The Mountain Men, starring Charlton Heston, and one called Motherlode in 82, starring Charlton Heston. It's funny because they say this is Fraser Heston's directorial debut, but he actually directed 2 movies before Needful Things for TNT, so they don't count, right? Treasure Island and Crucifer of Blood, both starring Charlton Heston, and one movie after this called Alaska, starring, who starred in Alaska? Oh yeah, Charlton Heston. And incidentally, that was also a Castle Rock picture. Okay, before we OD on nepotism here, let's go back to the flick. Roll it. The only other credit we found on Fraser Heston, he was assistant director, though, on Antony and Cleopatra, which starred Hildegard Neal, Eric Porter, John Castle, Fernando Rey. Oh, and Charlton Heston. But I'm sure Chuck auditioned for every one of those parts. He just happened to be the best guy available at the time.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Well, they don't do talking scenes like that anymore, do they? Just Max von Sydow and the little boy in a room together talking, and it's darn scary. And who's the first guy in town the devil picks on? A little boy. And what's the little boy's weakness? He lost his father, just like Stephen King lost his father in real life. Actually, his father left before Big Steve could remember him. Anyhow, Max von Sydow is the great Swedish classical actor who makes a specialty of playing both sides of the religious fence. He was Jesus in The Greatest Story Ever Told, starring Charlton Heston. He was the exorcist in The Exorcist, of course, the second exorcist, the really, really serious one who knows what he's doing. And, of course, he's best known for all those Ingmar Bergman films he did where he yells at his wife and experiences inner turmoil a lot. Of course, here at Monstervision, we know that the man's absolute best work was in Conan the Barbarian, Flash Gordon, and the movie that all critics hate, Dune. New Line Cinema cut an hour out of Needful Things for the theater version, but they hardly touched Max von Sydow's performance. They thought he was so good in it. All right, let's go. Max von Sydow, by the way, said he was trying to play Leland Gaunt the way Stephen King wrote him. He read the book. Amen, brother. I hate it when actors say, I didn't bother to read that book. I created the character from my own experience. Well, you know what? Stephen King has sold 50 zillion books. How many has your experience sold, right? Obviously, this is a sore spot for me. Come to think of it, though, he's kind of doing the exact same role that James Mason did in Salem's Lot, isn't he? So, never mind. Oh, I see we have some comedians in the audience. Well, we have an outlet for all that destructive energy, young man and young woman. Just enter our Monstervision caption contest and try to make the six-headed jury laugh. And the winner gets our exclusive Monstervision t-shirt, plus the scorn of all the sore losers. Just go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and maybe you can prove just how hysterically funny your mom never realized you are.
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
That's the late, great J.T. Walsh as Danforth Keaton III, better known as Don't Call Me Buster. Made a career out of playing slime balls, and he dropped dead in February of a heart attack at the age of 53. Just no justice in this world, is there? How many great movies did that guy do? The Grifters and Red Rock West and A Few Good Men, Sling Blade. The movie The Negotiator is dedicated to him because it was his last movie. You can always tell who died by the line at the end that says, "This movie is dedicated to." You know how they do that? Remember that really bad Jaws ripoff, Great White? They dedicated it to the cameraman who got eaten by the shark. I'm sure his family was thrilled, right? Then there was that big helicopter crash over in the Philippines during the Chuck Norris movie. How would you like that to be your epitaph, you know? The guy who had Missing in Action 4 dedicated to him. What an honor, you know? Of course, that's better than dying in the middle of Look Who's Talking 3. You know, they dedicate that one to you, and you go, what a wuss. He died making this thing? No disrespect to J.T. Walsh, though. One of the great ones. A darn shame that we don't have him with us anymore. Okay, now that we've talked about death, let's get back to the movie. A lot of those stunt men, they don't want to admit that what movie they worked on, though. You know? Because they'll say, yeah, I did some stunts in Hollywood, did a lot of stunts. Major stunts. Then you find out they worked on Flashdance, you know? They needed somebody to fall off a beanbag chair. Yeah, that was me. They cut out the best part of that, though.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Amanda Plummer as the psycho dork. What a stretch for her. That's pretty much what they always hire Amanda Plummer for, isn't it? The fragile little waif who can kill at any moment. All right, the Baptists are mad at the Catholics, and the turkey farmer's mad at the psycho dork, and this is way better than it was in the theaters. I'm actually kind of enjoying this movie, and when it first came out, it was horrible. You had to keep saying, now, who did what to who and why and how come and what happened and who was that was just in that scene, because the studio had basically taken a chainsaw to it and lopped off about an hour of plot, which Big Steve King knows all about because many of his books have been badly adapted to the screen. Just like many of my Monstervision scripts have been brutally hacked to death by the TNT High Sheriffs. A couple of months ago, we did a monologue that didn't even make it to the screen at all. We had dead air, and I said, we tried to save it, Joe Bob, but it's just too controversial. Anyhow, let's not go there. But Stephen King and I have a lot in common. Like, he used to live in a trailer. That was when he wasn't selling any books, and he got bogged down in self-pity, and he started drinking too much and frittering money away on poker and bumper pool. He loves bumper pool. Taking his measly paycheck and cashing it at the bar and knocking them back, and before you know it, you've drank up half the grocery budget for the week. But Steve and I diverge at some point in his career. I think that point is where he becomes a multimillionaire, and I'm still living in a trailer. But let's get back to the movie. Go. Stephen King said something interesting. He says if he can get something down on paper without puking all over the word processor, then as far as he's concerned, it's fit to see the light of day. But then Steve says a lot of things that are just meant to mess with our heads. So this flick here is a little light on the puke scale, actually. I prefer a slightly heavier puke factor, but just like there's no such thing as bad sex, no such thing as bad Stephen King. New England antiquing will never be the same, will it? I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and people do write to me, and some of them try real hard to get on TV. Let me tell you something that won't work. Hey, Joe Bob, you remind me of a castrated pigeon. Please read this on TV and say my name and the name of my cousin and tell me when it'll be on. Okay, here's something that will work. Dear Joe Bob, not since the novels of Leo Tolstoy has there been a genius able to speak to the whole world as you have since the arrival of Monstervision. Now, you see the difference? Castrated pigeon, Tolstoy. Don't forget this. Send those letters and cards to me in care of Monstervision, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at monstervision@turner.com. Maybe Tolstoy's a little far. William Butler Yeats, better example.
Don't miss Monstervision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
That was Arkansas native Lisa Blount making eyes with Elvis there. Lisa is best known, of course, as the other girlfriend in An Officer and a Gentleman, the one who drives David Keith to suicide when she says, "I don't want no Okie from Muskogee." Remember that? Lisa's part in Needful Things got completely cut out in the original version. I think the director was going for a kind of David Lynch thing with her scenes, but it doesn't really work, and this is one time I kind of agree with the studio. Okay, this is the part where it drags in the middle, so let's get on with it. Roll it. One of Stephen King's dramatic principles is never create 3 characters when you could create 30. The man could write a lot of things, but Cliff's Notes is not one of them. You know what I mean? People say to me, "Joe Bob, where can I download?" I don't want to hear about that. Ask your mother about that. But if you want to find out about the Monstervision schedule or read some of the weirdest mail I've gotten since my ex-wife sent me a cherry bomb Valentine, or just ogle the Playmate of the Week, then write this down, tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. 24 hours a day, you can waste time there and download all you want.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Almost done in by a recipe for pie. Well, I think we could use a little diversion here. What do you think? And here to divert us is our weekly visit from the ever-popular TNT Mail Girl, Rusty, in the part of the show we call Joe Bob's Advice to the Hopeless. And, gosh, I think I lost a breath there, Rusty, when you walked in tonight. Whew.
That sounds unhealthy.
It's okay. I have lots of breath to spare.
Careful what you do with it.
Well, you sound concerned.
If I were a different kind of girl, I could exhaust your supply.
Of breath?
Among other things.
If you were a different kind of girl, I'd wear a scuba tank.
Thank you.
I think we need a letter now.
That would be lovely. It's from S. Kennedy.
S. Kennedy. What kind of name is S?
The name with a breath missing.
Ah, Dear Joe Bob. After watching Sex Ed Night on Monstervision with guest lecturer Nancy Friday, I was offended by her comment that all female babies are born lesbian. As a nursing mother, I hardly believe that I'm contributing to the sexual disorientation of my child. Therefore, I believe that Ms. Friday is badly mistaken. Her theories of the female breasts are not only perverted, it reminds me of the idiotic poopiness of Jean-Louis Baudry's dream screen theory, in which he refers to breastfeeding as a fetish. I personally do not believe that babies have any kind of sexual feelings or desires, nor do I believe that a baby gets any sexual satisfaction from breastfeeding. Can she say breastfeeding just one more time? Such a delightful word. You know, Ms. Friday needs to wash her perverted little brain out with soap. Sincerely, S. Kennedy. Well, S. By the way, are you related to the famous M of James Bond fame? Well, S. I've used a professional hypnotist to go back in time to my own breastfeeding years, which were roughly ages 0 to 13. And I can assure you that there is a little charge there, okay? But Rusty, I'd be interested in your own views on this. Do you think there's anything sexual about a mouth and a nipple going at it? Scientifically speaking, of course.
You forgot. I'm not that kind of girl.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Okay.
But scientifically speaking?
Scientific, strictly scientific.
Yes.
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 There you go, S. It's 3 against 1. 4 against 1 if you count Jean-Louis Baudry. So, yes.
Yes.
I know you're not that kind of girl, but are you one of those kind of girls?
No.
No. I didn't think so. Oh, I see we have some comedians in the audience. Well, we have an outlet for all that destructive energy, young man and young woman. Just enter our Monstervision caption contest and try to make the six-headed jury laugh. And the winner gets our exclusive Monstervision t-shirt, plus the scorn of all the sore losers. Just go to tnt.turner.com/monstervision, and maybe you can prove just how hysterically funny your mom never realized you are.
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free T-shirt at tnt.turner.com/monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Ask me if I'm happy here. That was a terrible, terrible thing that the TNT High Sheriffs did to that great scene between Valerie Bromfield and Amanda Plummer battling to the death with kitchen knives. Here we are showing the full 3-hour, 7-minute version of the movie, and the editing department decides to hack all the best parts out of the greatest action sequence in the flick. Too violent for TNT. But that thing was a work of art, I guarantee you. You got to go get the video and see that fight. You've heard of bitch-slapping cat fights? This was a knife-slapping bitch fight. Valerie Bromfield, who plays Wilma, she's a comedian who used to write for Saturday Night Live. And one day this casting director called her up and said, "Valerie, I met you at a party, and there's this role of a mad turkey farmer I thought you might be interested in." And Valerie said, "Wait a minute, you met me at a party and you think I'd be good as a mad woman? What was I doing at the party?" So anyhow, she took the role and she researched it by going to bingo games because she wanted to see really, really bitter women. They'd say these nasty things when somebody would call bingo, and they'd be smoking the whole time, just deteriorating as the game went on. So that's how she modeled the character of Wilma. Anyhow, let's get back to the flick. I get offered roles at parties sometimes. Casting directors, they'll walk up to me and say, "I'm working on this movie. It's about a handsome and wealthy rancher who's married to Kim Basinger, and we thought you might be interested in this role as her retarded cousin who sleeps with his sister." Happens all the time.
Coming up, Blast Off with Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett in Saturn 3, next on 100% Weird. And come face-to-face with evil. Watch Max von Sydow, Ed Harris, and J.T. Walsh in Needful Things tomorrow at 7 on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Wow, they are breaking all the rules with this one. The grisly carcass of a dead pet dog. Usually they never kill animals, even in horror flicks. Then you got a child attempting suicide with a revolver to the head. That one's going to make the PTAs of America very happy. I like the fact that they're so upfront about Max von Sydow being the devil. Because most movies hedge their bets. Well, he's a sly devil type. Not Needful Things. This guy is the devil. And he's going to, by God, sleep with Ed Harris's girlfriend if he can. Shades of Rosemary's Baby and The Entity. All right, back to the movie. How many more commercials? I can't talk all night. How much these people want to know about Ed Harris or whatever? And why does he always wear his hair like that? That's what I want to know. You know why? Because he's intense. It's intense hair. He's the guy you hire when you're having a meeting. Somebody says, "You know what we need for this role here? Intensity." You know, it's between Ed Harris and Lance Henriksen from there on out, you know. Unless you want sleazy, disgusting intensity. Harvey Keitel. I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and people do write to me, and some of them try real hard to get on TV. Let me tell you something that won't work. "Hey, Joe Bob, you remind me of a castrated pigeon. Please read this on TV and say my name and the name of my cousin and tell me when it'll be on." Okay, here's something that will work. "Dear Joe Bob, not since the novels of Leo Tolstoy has there been a genius able to speak to the whole world as you have since the arrival of Monstervision." Now, you see the difference? Castrated pigeon, Tolstoy. Don't forget this. Send those letters and cards to me in care of Monstervision, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at monstervision@turner.com. Maybe Tolstoy's a little far. William Butler Yeats, better example.
Don't miss Monstervision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
I love the way they make the preachers just as evil as everybody else, especially since it's our two favorite religions here at Monstervision, the Catholics and the Baptists. We've probably gotten more letters from those two religious groups than any other religions in America. And how come we never get a letter from a Muslim or a Hindu or something? Don't they get mad at us? Actually, I'm kind of hurt that we get so many angry letters from my fellow Baptists. They write me letters saying they want to save me. So listen up, you guys. One thing I know about being a Baptist is once saved, always saved, which is one reason I've stayed a Baptist, because I only want to go through that stuff once. My preacher, when I got baptized, he was kind of like he looked like Kenneth Starr, you know, dead from the eyeballs down. And when he dunked me in that water, I thought he kind of held me down there for an extra second or two, just to let me know he could kill me if he wanted to. So I don't have any trouble at all understanding the character of the Reverend Rose, who's so dim that he goes to the devil's house and tries to get him to put up "Say No to the Devil" bumper stickers. And so concludes our religious segment for the evening. Back to the movie. And if you were taking notes just now, you don't have to go to Sunday school in the morning. You know? You can get there at 10:30 and smoke in the parking lot like normal people. The Baptists in the audience know what I'm talking about, don't you?
People say to me, "Joe Bob, where can I download?" I don't want to hear about that. Ask your mother about that. But if you want to find out about the Monstervision schedule or read some of the weirdest mail I've gotten since my ex-wife sent me a cherry bomb Valentine, or just ogle the Playmate of the Week, then write this down, tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. 24 hours a day, you can waste time there and download all you want.
Visit the Monstervision website at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Whoa! Did Bonnie Bedelia just have sex with the devil? You know, sex with Max von Sydow would be scary even if he wasn't the devil. Just those teeth alone could make you frigid. Now, may we have a moment of appreciation for Bonnie's garbanzos in those scenes we just watched? Yeah. How did they do that? That is the most amazing feat of fabric suspension since Sigourney Weaver's gravity-defying panties in the final sequence of Alien, you know? Normally, I don't like to publicly refer to a woman's grand tetons like this, but we've got Minneapolis and St. Paul having a state fair in this movie, if you know what I mean. Bonnie is one of those actresses that you forget about, and then she turns up somewhere, like in the Die Hard movies. She was in Salem's Lot, another interminable Stephen King story that we've had on Monstervision. In fact, we've got a whole heck of a lot of Stephen King alumni in this flick tonight. Ed Harris was in Creepshow, and both he and Ray McKinnon, the guy playing the deputy, were in The Stand. J.T. Walsh was in Misery. The turkey farmer's husband, Frank C. Turner, was in It. And why am I telling you this? Because this movie is long, and I'm starting to grasp at straws here, so roll it. Did you know that Bonnie Bedelia is Macaulay Culkin's aunt? Now think about that. Macaulay Culkin got to sit on her lap a lot and act like he didn't notice, which is kind of a disgusting image, isn't it? Then that's what we're all about here on Monstervision, isn't it?
Oh, I see we have some comedians in the audience. Well, we have an outlet for all that destructive energy, young man and young woman. Just enter our Monstervision caption contest and try to make the six-headed jury laugh. And the winner gets our exclusive Monstervision t-shirt, plus the scorn of all the sore losers. Just go to tnt.turner.com/Monstervision, and maybe you can prove just how hysterically funny your mom never realized you are.
Play the Monster Caption Contest and win a free t-shirt at tnt.turner.com/Monstervision. Watch the movie that still makes you think twice about entering the water.
What we are dealing with here is an eating machine.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
This shark, swallow you whole.
Dive into Jaws. 1 week from tonight at 10:30 on TNT's Monstervision. Hosted by Joe Bob Briggs. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Now, why didn't we get to see J.T. Walsh kill his wife with that hammer? We had 3 bodies in that last part, just what this movie needed, and we didn't get to see a dang thing. But I'm not going to make a big deal about it because I need to stick up for my pal Stephen King here for a second. One of the jurors on the 1986 Pulitzer Prize Committee suggested that they at least give an honorable mention to Stephen King's book, It. And he wanted to acknowledge, as he put it, that this is an American writer immersed in American culture and one hell of a good storyteller. And this is what another juror answered. I regard Stephen King as the chief cancer on our Republic of Letters. What a weenie. Okay, back to this endless movie. Who could insult Stephen King? Who could insult anybody who wrote a line like, I killed my wife. Is that wrong? I didn't mean to. That one line kind of sums up America, doesn't it? I killed my wife. Is that wrong? I didn't mean to. I love that line.
I'm Joe Bob Briggs, and people do write to me, and some of them try real hard to get on TV. Let me tell you something that won't work. Hey, Joe Bob, you remind me of a castrated pigeon. Please read this on TV and say my name and the name of my cousin and tell me when it'll be on. Okay, here's something that will work. Dear Joe Bob, not since the novels of Leo Tolstoy has there been a genius able to speak to the whole world as you have since the arrival of Monstervision. Now, you see the difference? Castrated pigeon, Tolstoy. Don't forget this. Send those letters and cards to me in care of Monstervision, 1010 Techwood Drive, Atlanta, Georgia, 30318, or email me at monstervision@turner.com. Maybe Tolstoy's a little far. William Butler Yeats, better example.
Don't miss Monstervision, hosted by Joe Bob Briggs, every Saturday night on TNT. Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Well, here we are at the 12th commercial break in the Stephen King 9-hour miniseries, Needful Things. Is this a record? Did we have more commercials in The Swarm, or is this the all-time record? Wait a minute, let me check my butt. Yes, this is the record. Well, you'll be happy to know that this is also the last commercial break, and now it's Ed Harris against the Deauville in the stunning conclusion of Needful Things. Roll it. And it better be a stunning conclusion because you guys look like you've just been to the Bahamas in one of those 72-hour casino cruises where you drink Bahama Mamas with a girl named Kika. Ernie, you okay? Looked like you were in screensaver mode there for a minute.
Back to Monstervision host Joe Bob Briggs and Needful Things on TNT.
Well, that wasn't too bad, was it? I'm not crazy about those endings where the devil rides away to return in later years. Kind of a cop-out. The director doesn't quite have that drive-in touch yet, but it's okay. He's got time to do some more TNT originals. Let me remind you that next week we have Jaws. Not the immortal Jaws 3, not even Jaws 2, the original. And after that, we'll show the classic documentary 4 Days in November with our special guest, director Mel Stewart. And that's it for me, Joe Bob Briggs, reminding you that artificial intelligence is no match for natural stupidity. Did you guys hear the one about old Fred, who'd been a faithful Christian, and he was in the hospital and he was near death? And the family calls their preacher to stand with them, and as the preacher stands next to the bed, old Fred's condition appears to deteriorate, and he motions for something to write on. So the pastor lovingly hands him a pen and a piece of paper, and old Fred uses his last bit of energy to scribble a note, and then he dies. And the preacher turns to Fred's wife, and he says, I guess I have the privilege of reading you Fred's last words. And he looks at the note and he reads, hey, you're standing on my oxygen tube. Joe Bob Briggs reminding you that the drive-in will never die. Man gets hit by a bus on a busy street in New York City. He's dying on the sidewalk and a crowd is gathering around, and the man gasps, a priest! Somebody get me a priest! And a policeman checks the crowd. There's no priest, there's no minister, there's no man of God of any kind. And the dying man says, "A priest, please." So out of the crowd steps this little old Jewish man, and he says to the cop, "Mr. Policeman, I'm not a priest, I'm not even Catholic, but for 50 years now I'm living behind St. Elizabeth's Catholic Church on First Avenue, and every night I'm listening to the Catholic litany, so maybe I can be of some comfort to this man." So the policeman brings the old guy through the crowd, and he kneels down over the dying man, and he says in a very solemn voice, "B4, I13, N32.